President Putin be absolutely delighted about what's going on because it potentially is a split between the US and its allies in NATO and in Europe. The only person happy at the moment is Vladimir Putin.
Well, he could be seeing it that way, or he could be seeing it as Putin getting isolated. Remember all the other geopolitical movements that have been made in the last few weeks. We have secured Venezuela.
Something fascinating happens when bold political talking points collide with real-time fact-checking. And let's just say, not everyone walks away looking credible. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In this clip, what you're about to witness is a moment that perfectly captures the gap between confident political messaging and actual reality. A MAGA-aligned commentator steps into the spotlight, clearly ready to push a strong narrative, but what follows is a sharp, almost surgical dismantling of that claim. Because sitting across from her isn't someone willing to just nod along. This is Victoria Derbyshire, a journalist known for asking direct questions and, more importantly, not letting questionable statements slide. And that's where things start to shift. What begins as a routine political exchange quickly turns into something much more revealing. You can almost feel the moment when the talking points stop working, when confidence meets scrutiny, and when the narrative starts to unravel under pressure. This isn't just a disagreement, it's a live demonstration of what happens when political spin runs headfirst into accountability. So as you watch this unfold, pay close attention, not just to what's being said, but how quickly the tone changes once the facts enter the conversation. Let's get into it.
OK, let's bring in Republican strategist Angie Wong. I mean, can you help us? What do you think President Trump's next move is?
Well, I don't believe that President Trump is an imperialist. I think he definitely wants to make a deal here. And as your speakers have said, he is the art of the deal president, and he has long been known to throw out the most extreme, most outrageous deals just to see what everyone's reactions will be and who's going to be pushing back. And in this case, he's seen almost everyone in the EU push back on this.
And forgive me, Angie Wong, he may also have seen President Putin be absolutely delighted about what's going on because it potentially is a split between the US and its allies in NATO and in Europe. The only person happy at the moment is Vladimir Putin.
Well, he could be seeing it that way, or he could be seeing it as Putin getting isolated. Remember all the other geopolitical movements that have been made in the last few weeks. We have secured Venezuela. We're going after Cuba now.
You haven't secured Venezuela. I'm sorry, you have not secured Venezuela. It's the same regime. It's just a different person in charge.
And the Trump administration is all over the former vice president, now interim president there. So there's been a lot of movement. It could very well be, at the end of the day, when the historians write this book, that we are actually trying to isolate Putin and cut off any sort of money pipelines, any sort of trade pipelines. Remember, all of this deal, yes, we're talking about rare earth minerals, we're talking about national security for the U.S., but we're also talking about the Polar Silk Road. If the U.S. can control that shipping lane, along with the Panama Canal, we essentially then can control the Western Hemisphere as far as trade and shipping goes. That is
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to ask you, why do you think President Trump wants to own Greenland when you know you've got this treaty, the 1951 Defence Treaty between Greenland/Denmark and the US? It allows you to deploy thousands more US troops there, to build more bases. During the Cold War, there were something like 15,000 US troops there. There's now about 200. Why do you have to actually own it? Why can't you work with them to send a load more US troops?
Well, the messaging here is that President Trump wants to build the Golden Dome, which is a $175 billion project, very similar to what Israel has. And he needs Greenland and the seas around it to do so. Now, it's not impossible. It's never been heard of before that we do annex and purchase lands. We did that with Alaska. We did that with the Louisiana Purchase, the Mexican secession, and other places. So this is part of that. But we're not going in with troops. That's a very far-fetched idea that we would go in with military force. I think President Trump really does want to make a deal.
Just one more thought. Donald Trump said in that exchange with Norway's Prime Minister he wants complete and total control of Greenland. If he can threaten a NATO ally to surrender territory, and other allies that if they don't come to a deal, tariffs will be imposed upon them, does that mean NATO is effectively dead?
I don't think native. I think there's a lot of pressuring. There's a lot of positioning right now. Even the U.S. senators have come out over the weekend to tell President Trump, if you invade Greenland with military force, you will be impeached. So he is feeling the pressure from everybody right now, and we.
That's interesting. Sorry, Angie. I'm just because one of our guests is agreeing with that, and Lord Glassman.
And this right here is where the narrative completely falls apart. Because once you strip away the confident talking points, the reality is a lot messier than it's being presented. You'll often see commentators come onto international platforms, especially UK media, and try to sell this idea that the United States has somehow secured Venezuela. It sounds bold, it sounds decisive, but when you actually look at the facts, that claim doesn't really hold up. Yes, there was a major turning point when Nicolas Maduro was removed from power in a dramatic US operation, but that didn't magically transform the entire system overnight. In fact, the existing political structure didn't just disappear, it adapted. The current leadership, under figures like Delcy Rodriguez, has continued to hold power, meaning the broader regime framework is still very much intact. So when you hear phrases like, "We've secured Venezuela," it skips over that crucial reality. Removing one leader is not the same as fully stabilizing or controlling a country. And that's exactly why the pushback from Victoria Derbyshire matters so much in moments like this. Because instead of letting sweeping claims slide, she forces the conversation back into the realm of facts, where things are far less clear-cut. This isn't just about one debate clip, it's about a bigger pattern. Bold geopolitical claims being made with certainty, while the situation on the ground remains complex, uncertain, and still evolving. And when that gap between messaging and reality gets exposed in real time, it becomes very hard to ignore. That's what made this exchange so revealing.